Hello class, I hope everyone is doing well when they start watching this video. Today we're going to be talking about cell theory and just some of the basics behind how cells were discovered and what we know about them today. So, first and foremost, some of our objectives are to understand how cells were discovered and then list and describe the three parts of our cell theory. So, also I thought this would be kind of fun. I have been trying to get more creative with my Bitmojis, so I hope you guys enjoy them. Like this one. Anyways, so some of the questions I thought would be fun to get us start to think about cell theory and maybe some of the history about cells is how do we discover things we can't see? We know now that cells are really small, but before then, how did people start to learn about and see and discover new things? What is true about all life, all living things? What is something that we all have in common? What's our basic unit of life? Yeah, so those are some of the questions. When I think about these, I see technology as being our biggest way to help discover things that we don't know or did not know before. So the more we can learn about technology to help us improve maybe better microscopes that we can see closer and smaller things, or maybe even better telescopes to see farther into space. And then something that's true about all life, what I think of is cells. We all are made of cells, but we'll get into that. Here's a fun video that describes it very well. I have it linked in our classroom, so I encourage you guys to watch this video before continuing in our lecture. But we're going to be talking about cell theory. So let's first talk about what cell theory is. It states that the following three things are true for every living thing. So cell theory states all organisms are made up of one or more cells. The cell is the basic unit of life, and all cells come from other cells through cellular division. So we're going to look into each one of these and kind of break them down and how they were created, or I should say kind of discovered, but this is true for all cells. Well, I shouldn't say, this is one theory. We've talked about theories at the beginning of the year. This is one way to describe, to help explain how life is created. But all organisms are made up of cells. Even something as complex as a human is made up of many, many cells. Our cell is our basic unit of life, and that all cells come from other cells. So, but where did these ideas come from? So, first, I found a cool video that I will also share with you guys. It is explaining how microscopes work. So, microscopes were very, very important when it came to understanding how cells were discovered. Basically, the way microscopes work is that you put different shaped glass closer and closer, or I guess basically different shaped glass, and look through it, and it will magnify. It will make something look bigger, just like this guy's eye looks right now. This is just glass in between him and us, and so if you put those maybe several in a row and shine some light through something small, you're able to see more and more. So again, please pause and watch this video, but I'm going to keep going. So cell discovery. So our first microscopes that were invented were a long time ago, and when they were invented, they could see 5x the naked eye. So for a naked eye, meaning we don't have any glasses, what we see almost every day is at 1x. These were 5 times better. So we could see a little bit more. It was good. It helped us see a lot. But as people started playing around, they were really interested in, oh, I could see something smaller 5 times better. So let's look at trying to make it even better than 5 times. So Robert Hooke is the first scientist we're going to talk about. He was born in 1635 and died in 1703. So this is about our time period, is around the 1600s. And he made a microscope that could see 30 times better. So it was 6 times better than the other microscopes at the time. Robert Hooke was also an English philosopher, but he was interested in all science and really understanding how the world worked. So Robert Hooke looked at plants and saw the shape of square blocks. So this was one of his drawings of the plants that he saw underneath. And he named these small squares cells because which means small room. He thought each one of these looked like a little room in a building where monks live in a monastery. So where monks, people who are religious and live by themselves, kind of have rooms that look like this. So he saw small room, and cell is what he would be naming this. And so he created a whole book with all of what he found. So he was kind of our first main scientist to start looking at cells. And as he's publishing his work and finding stuff, there's another scientist called Anton van Leeuwenhoek. I did not pronounce that right, but we can all read his name, who was living around the same time as Hooke. We can see that when he was born in 1632 and died in 1723. He created an even better telescope, which was 30 times the naked eye, or 10 times better than Hooke's. And now he could see unicellular organisms moving and their organelles within them. So he could see something like a bacteria cell just by looking at his through his microscope. So he saw that they would be moving around and thought, well, since they're moving, they have to be alive. Things that are dead don't move. A dead plant doesn't move, a dead animal doesn't move, but anything that is alive does. So he named all of these little cells animalcules. Just a fun little trivia. He named them animalcules, thinking that they were like animals, little tiny animals. So finally we start to get our cell discovery, or I should say our cell theory. So these scientists read a lot of what Hooke and Anton van Leeuwenhoek worked on. So Theodore Schwann and Matthias Sheldon, who lived in the 1800s, even died the same year, worked together after reading a lot of the work done by previous scientists, and they created the first two parts of cell theory. So they said that all organisms are made up of one or more cells, and the cell is the most basic unit of life. After reading and looking at the work of these two gentlemen, they agreed that there had to be some common trend or some similar things throughout. So, and then our very last person, Robert Remarque, created the third part of the cell theory, which was that cells come from other cells through cell division. So Remarque, as we learned in our first video, had an interesting lifetime in the sense that someone else tried to take credit for his work, but luckily now we know he was the main person and not someone who plagiarized or stole his work. So let's look back at our objectives. Understand how cells were discovered. We found that microscope technology allowed scientists to see and watch cells. So microscopes and technology, and then describe the three parts of cell theory, which is all organisms are made of one or more cell. The cell is the most basic unit of life, and cells come from other cells through cell division. So I hope that was pretty straightforward. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know.